Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Ann Reardon, and for the next couple of weeks we are cruising with Princess Cruises, going to lots of exciting countries and trying new desserts. I'll tell you about all of that over the next couple of weeks, but for now we're checking out all of the exciting things that we can do on board, like swimming in the pools, playing basketball. Who do you think won that matchup, Dave or James? There's a putting green, a hairdresser, and heaps more stuff. And you must see the food. There is so much to eat on this cruise. You would never ever go hungry, which is great for me because I have the 3 boys to feed. One of my favourite things that I had on the cruise was the chocolate pistachio dome, which is a chocolate mousse with a pistachio ganache in the centre and an almond pistachio nougatine base. It's so amazing. I'm going to take you into the galley, which is a ship's kitchen, and film how their chefs actually make it. You're not usually allowed in the galley, but we've got special permission to take you in, so this is super exciting. The galley here is huge. They have over 100 people just working in the pastry section alone because they have over 3,000 guests on board the ship to feed. The first thing you need to make for this dessert is the pistachio ganache, and for that you'll need to put milk, cream and sugar into a saucepan and then place that over high heat. They make 3,000 of these desserts for each cruise, and I'll put the recipe quantities for making a smaller batch, not this big, at home on the howtocookthat.net website for you, and there's a link to that below. Once the cream is hot, tip some of it into the egg yolks to temper it and then whisk it through, and then add that back into the pot and stir it gently until it reaches 84 degrees C or 184 Fahrenheit. Then add in the pistachio paste. This is a purchased ingredient that you may not be able to get hold of unless you're a chef, so I'll put a recipe to make your own pistachio paste on the website too. Keep that over the heat until it's all mixed in. Then add in the gelatin, white chocolate and butter and stir that until they're completely melted and mixed through. Pour your pistachio ganache into small hemisphere moulds. If you have a siphon, that makes this job much faster, which is important when you're making this many, but you could also use a piping bag with no tip and just squeeze the end when you want it to stop pouring to move to the next one and then pipe some out again. Then you need to put those in the freezer. Wouldn't you love a walk-in freezer this big? Imagine the giant ice cream desserts we could make if I had a freezer this big. That would be fun. Now next, for the nougatine base, you need powdered sugar, cinnamon and pectin, sliced almonds, ground pistachios, butter and glucose syrup. Add the butter to the glucose syrup and heat it until the butter is melted, and then add in the powdered sugar. Stir that really well until it's combined, and then pour in the almonds and the pistachios. I can't help but think as he's pouring these in how much a small packet of these nuts costs at the supermarket. This would be so much money to buy this larger quantities. Mix that all together until it looks like this. Then get small scoops of mixture and place them into a silicone muffin tray. And then you want to bake those in the oven. There's no need to squash them down, they'll spread out as they bake. And once they're cooked, they look like this. If you let them cool, you can then just pop them out of the tray and store them in an airtight container until you need them. Now we're going to have to wait until tomorrow for that pistachio ganache to freeze. Day 2, and we're going to make the chocolate decorations. To do that, spread some green coloured cocoa butter onto some acetate using a clean dry brush, and then use a fork with the middle 2 prongs bent upwards to make a swirly pattern across the cocoa butter. Next, you want to pour some tempered white chocolate over the top and spread it out into an even sheet. Then scrape off the excess from around the edges of your acetate, and once it's just starting to set but it's not firm, you want to cut that into even small rectangles. Now he's using a ruler to make sure they are all perfectly the same size. Once that chocolate is set, you can just peel off the acetate and they look like this. For the dark chocolate swirl, place a rectangle of acetate onto your counter and then pour some tempered dark chocolate over the top. Spread it out and clean up around the edges, and then use a knife to cut skinny triangles, you don't want them to be too fat, all the way along your acetate. Curve that and place it into a tube while it's setting so that you end up with the curved curls rather than flat triangles. Once it's set, you can just peel off the acetate and snap off individual triangle curls. They look cute, hey? Bake a tray of sponge cake, or if you're making 3,000 of these desserts, make lots of trays, and cut circles the same size as the base of your desserts. As you can see, this is just a thin layer of sponge, you don't want it too thick. Take the frozen pistachio ganache out of the moulds and place them on a tray and then put them back into the freezer until we need them. For the chocolate mousse, you need lots of chocolate, egg yolks, invert syrup, cream, milk and sugar. Place the milk into a big pan with the cream and heat that up over the stove. That's a heavy pot plus 14 kilos of liquid. You need to be fit to work in the galley. While that's boiling, put some additional cream in a stand mixer to whip. Now this is a lot bigger than my mixer at home. I love how giant everything is in here. Add the invert sugar syrup to the hot cream. Now most chefs purchase this syrup, but you can make it yourself, and I'll put a recipe for that on the website too. Pour the sugar into the egg yolks and whisk them together. Add a little bit of the hot cream into the yolks to temper them and whisk that together. And then once your cream mixture is at 84 degrees C or 184 F, pour the egg yolk mixture in and stir it constantly while you bring it back up to 84 C. Take it off the heat and add all of that lovely chocolate into the pot and stir it in thoroughly. Check out how big that whisk is. But still, it's not even strong enough to mix this much chocolate into the cream mixture, so they're going to swap over to the stick mixer. I love how everything is just like I have at home, but a giant version of it. That is so big. Now we're going to add some of the cream to this mixture to help it cool down faster. Then you need to get 2 people to lift up the very heavy pot and tip it into an even bigger pot, which has the rest of the cream in it, and stir that thoroughly. That is a lot of chocolate mousse. Pour some mousse into each of the hemisphere molds. Now you don't want these completely full because we have to add everything else on top. So make sure you leave a gap, don't fill it all the way up. Let it start to set a little bit and then add your pistachio ganache hemisphere into the center of each one. Then put the almond and pistachio nougatine base on top. If you don't have time to make this whole dessert, you should try making just these because they're very yummy. Then add a sponge circle on top of that, and then we need to put that into the freezer overnight. Look at that beautiful view. Don't forget that if we're at sea, the whole kitchen is rocking a little bit, which can make putting the finishing details on a dessert a little bit trickier than normal. Okay, we're up to day 3. Take the frozen desserts out of their molds and break off any excess mousse that is around the edges, and then put them on a wire rack that's sitting on a tray. Use an ice cream scoop to tip glaze over each dessert. And again, this is a purchased glaze, but I have a recipe for making your own glaze on the website, so I'll link you to that below. Take each dessert one by one and add your roughly ground pistachio pieces all around the base. He makes this look very easy. Then add a quenelle of cream on top of each one. Then add your green chocolate decorations either side of that cream and a couple of pistachios that have been coated in gold edible luster dust next to that. And then your dark chocolate swirl. Then finally, to decorate the plate, add a couple of lines of chocolate sauce and a few little dots. Beautiful. Now for the best part, eating the desserts. This pistachio dome is just one of the Chocolate Journeys desserts that they have on the Princess Cruises. They also have a milk chocolate peanut butter bar with honey roasted peanuts. This was Dave's favourite. As you know, he's not much of a sweet tooth, but he really liked this one.
It's really good.
There is a chocolate hazelnut bar too, which has citrus cream on the plate, and it is of course garnished with chocolate. Matt had this one and he was the first to finish his dessert and was asking for a taste of the other desserts too, so I'd say he loved it. There's also a chocolate tiramisu with a mascarpone cream and an espresso gelato.
Tiramisu, my favourite dessert. This is a good one. Very nice.
As you can see, there's nothing left on his plate either. And now to taste the chocolate pistachio dome with the almond and pistachio nougatine. It took them 3 days to make, and it's definitely worth it. So if you see Chocolate Journeys on the menu, make sure you order one of them. This is amazing. With thanks to Princess Cruises for having us and to the chefs for their patience while I filmed everything. Click here to go to my channel to see the rest of my videos, and make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, and click here for another episode of How to Cook That. Make it a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.